When a cocky police officer humiliated Amelia Jones in front of her children, he had no idea she was the judge about to preside over his case. The incident was caught on video, and courtroom revelations ended his career and tarnished his reputation, becoming a symbol in the fight against systemic bias. Amelia Jones stands in the vibrant heart of a community playground, surrounded by a scene of lively children and lush greenery. She watches her two sons laugh and play on the swings and carousels, their carefree joy blending with the warm afternoon air. Around 40, Amelia is tall and slender, dressed in a light summer dress that moves gently with the breeze. Her noble features and calm, confident smile exude a quiet strength, while the sunlight gently illuminates her face, highlighting both the kindness in her expression and a thoughtful gaze that hints at her inner resilience. Without warning, this peaceful moment is disrupted. Frank Hudson, a solidly built, middle-aged police officer, strides onto the playground, his gaze hard and assessing. His face, etched with deep lines and sharp features, reflects a life marked by weariness and an edge of impatience. He stops at the edge of the playground, squinting as he scrutinizes Amelia and her children, a look of suspicion tightening his already stern expression. With an air of authority and disdain, he walks toward her, his eyes cold and unwelcoming. As he approaches, his voice breaks the cheerful atmosphere with an icy tone. "This doesn't seem like the place for you and your kids," he remarks, his words carrying a thinly veiled threat. His tone suggests that she's somehow out of place, breaking unwritten rules, a warning that feels deliberately loaded. Amelia, who is used to respect and dignified interactions, meets his gaze with a calm, steady look. She responds with poise, her voice soft but firm. "My children are playing here just like everyone else," she replies, her words graceful yet resolute. However, her polite response only fuels Frank's irritation. His voice grows louder, his words taking on a more hostile edge. As his anger escalates, his remarks become pointed, slipping into thinly veiled racial insults that turn the conversation into a public display of aggression. His disdain is evident, and he begins openly questioning her presence, making comments that sting with subtle malice. Amelia's expression remains calm, yet a flicker of anger simmers beneath her composed exterior. She feels her dignity, her identity, and her very place in this community coming under attack. Her two sons, sensing the tension and the hostility directed at their mother, slowly gather around her, looking up with a mixture of confusion and fear. They cling to her dress, searching for comfort, unable to understand why this man is treating their mother with such disrespect. Drawing her children close, Amelia remains composed, yet her gaze sharpens, a spark of indignation igniting within her. She chooses to hold her ground, embodying grace and resilience in the face of his aggression. Though her heart races with anger, her voice is unwavering, her stance firm as she confronts this blatant disrespect. Amelia's silent strength speaks volumes as she stands tall, protecting her dignity and her children's sense of safety, determined not to let his hostility shatter their peace. Frank's insults become louder, cruder, relentless. His raised voice echoes through the playground, each word filled with callous disdain for Amelia. Onlookers turn, drawn by the commotion, some exchanging tense glances, others pulling out their phones to capture the escalating scene. With a growing sneer, Frank hurls baseless accusations at her, mentioning disturbing the peace and interfering with police work, his tone dripping with derision. He even threatens her with arrest, a display meant to intimidate. Amelia stands her ground, firm and resolute, realizing the situation is spiraling beyond control. Yet, aware of her children's wide, apprehensive eyes fixed on her, she refuses to be cowed. Her face remains calm, though her gaze hardens with steely resolve. In a steady, composed voice, she speaks up, reminding Frank of his responsibility to uphold fairness, a subtle warning that she won't be intimidated or accept unjust treatment. Her dignified response only serves to inflame his irritation. Frank steps closer. His face inches from hers, his features twisted with anger. His voice drops into a menacing growl as he warns her that he won't hesitate to use force if she doesn't leave immediately. Amelia's children, trembling, clutch at her dress, their innocent faces etched with fear and confusion. To them, the sight of this uniformed man bearing down on their mother with such hostility is both terrifying and incomprehensible. Amelia swallows her inner fury and sense of humiliation, choosing instead to preserve her composure, her dignity unshaken. She knows her children are watching closely, absorbing every moment, and she understands that by standing firm, by choosing strength over anger, she is teaching them something profound. That in the face of cruelty and injustice, one can still remain steadfast and resolute. The lesson is etched into her every gesture, each calm word, as she protects not only her own integrity, but the sense of respect and pride her children hold for her. The next day, Amelia enters the courtroom, her every step echoing with unshakable resolve. Dressed in a meticulously tailored suit, her expression is one of steely determination. She knows this is more than just an abuse of power case. It's an opportunity to challenge the entrenched prejudice within the very system that should protect citizens. On her desk sits a stack of complaints from local residents, each detailing experiences of police brutality and bias. Among the names is Frank Hudson, the officer who had humiliated her in front of her children just the day before. When Frank steps into the courtroom, his self-assured stride is undercut by a flash of surprise. His arrogant, indifferent expression falters as his gaze lands on Amelia, seated at the judge's bench in her judicial robe. He stops, a flicker of realization dawning on him. He is about to be held accountable by the very woman he dismissed and disrespected. His face pales slightly, understanding that the tables have irrevocably turned. Amelia, in complete control of her emotions, opens the session with a calm, firm voice, projecting authority with no trace of personal vendetta. Her gaze is unyielding, her tone coldly professional, allowing no room for her own feelings to seep into her words. She maintains a measured, unbreakable focus, and her eyes never waver as they rest upon Frank, ensuring he understands the gravity of the situation. At that moment, Frank realizes that the woman he had demeaned isn't just anyone, she's the judge now overseeing his fate. As the trial progresses, Amelia methodically examines each piece of evidence, each witness testimony describing Frank's misuse of authority. Their words resonate deeply with her, mirroring her own experience from that disturbing encounter at the playground. She sees in these stories the fears, injustices, and reluctance to challenge the system that had long silenced victims. Her own anger, once contained, fuels her commitment to justice. She knows this case represents a chance to address a wider wrong. Throughout the proceedings, Amelia remains unwavering, her voice steady and composed, but brimming with quiet strength. Her words are measured, but each carries an undeniable weight, a determination that reverberates through the courtroom. For her, this isn't merely about delivering a verdict. It's a profound reminder that no one, not even those entrusted with authority, should escape accountability for abusing their power. Frank sits in tense silence, his usual arrogance stripped away as he absorbs the enormity of his situation. Every moment in this courtroom reminds him that his careless actions, his prejudice, and his misuse of authority have finally caught up with him. And as the weight of Amelia's steady gaze rests upon him, he begins to realize that the consequences of his actions are far beyond what he had ever anticipated. The hearing stretches on for hours, each witness adding to the portrayal of Frank Hudson as a man who abuses his power. Witnesses, once afraid to speak out, now confidently recount his behavior. Harsh remarks, insults, and cruelty toward Black residents. The testimonies are bolstered by videos taken by bystanders on their phones, including footage of the degrading scene on the playground where Frank insulted Amelia in front of her children. The video, played on the courtroom screen, draws murmurs from the audience, his contempt and aggression now clear for all to see. Frank sits with a pale face, watching as his career and reputation crumble with every word from the witnesses and every frame of video. He realizes he'll never return to his former life, where he could freely exercise his prejudice and disregard for others. After hours of deliberation and evidence presentation, Amelia is ready to deliver the verdict. She stands, her voice firm and unwavering, with a determined glint in her eye. Her words ring out clearly, carving into the minds of everyone present. The police exist to protect and serve the community, not to oppress it. Abuse of power, prejudice, and discrimination are not only personal choices, but fundamental violations of an officer's duty. I am issuing a strict sentence to serve as a reminder that no one, especially those entrusted to serve the public, is above the law. Her words resonate not only in the courtroom, but far beyond. The media quickly picks up the story, and soon it's making waves, sparking discussions about systemic discrimination and police abuse of power. Frank, defeated and broken, leaves the courtroom with his head hanging, realizing it was his own arrogance and contempt for others' dignity that led him to this end. As Amelia leaves the courtroom, she feels a sense of lightness and pride. Returning home to her children, she feels a profound sense of relief. Justice has been served, and she has shown her sons the power of dignity, determination, and steadfastness in the face of injustice. This day will forever stay in her children's memories as an example of standing up for their rights and believing in justice, even when it seems impossible.